how a person can fight the Amalek, which is inside of each of us. And as we remembered yesterday, Amalek is this force inside of every Jew for sure. I mean, it must be somehow or other in every human being.
Even me?
Okay. If you're a human being, then you merit. You merit. You're not on this kind Mensch.
I just got it. I know this guy.
Yeah, good. So, how to fight against this force of Amalek. Now, what is this force of Amalek? Let's say in a non-Jew, we could say it's the force, the urge toward death. What's it called? I think Freud had this thing about the death wish, and it was the thanatosis or something. People have a death wish. Okay, there's death. There's two aspects of it. There's one aspect of it is you just want to run away from the world. You think maybe there's something better. And like Viktor Frankl says, it's a certain type of bravery a person has to have in order to, God forbid, to commit suicide, because you don't know where you're going. On the other hand, it's a certain type of cowardice that you don't want to face the problems of the world. But that's one type of, that's one. And let's take the example, like we said, of the Nazis. They just liked death. The SS men, they just liked death. I mean, that is Amalek. That is Amalek. And they hated life. They hated life. Life to them meant absolutely nothing. It was just something that you sort of took for granted. Or maybe, I never really thought deeply into it.
Well, I think they like their own lives. There's some people that like their own lives, like the Palestinians who we're talking about how much they look forward to dying.
See, like the Palestinians, take an example. They commit suicide in order to go to a higher world, a better world. So it's not really by them committing suicide. It's sort of like making a really major investment. Major investment. Like, you borrow $20 million from the mafia and invest it into your business. If it doesn't work, then you're finished. And if it does work, then it works. The only way you can get, it's that type of a thing. But then there's a certain type of person that he just hates life. There's a feeling inside of a person that he hates life. The Nazis, for instance, they were doing euthanasia and killing people that were a little bit mentally ill, or they were killing people way back then. America is just getting to that now. With assisted suicides and abortion, even after the child is already born, they do abortion. But the idea is like, it's okay. So I'm not sure in America if this is really a Amalek. It could be or it could be that just they don't want to be bothered. They just don't want to be bothered. It's not the idea that they like to kill, but it's the idea they just don't want to be bothered with more children. It just gets in their way. They want their own personal freedom. The pursuit of happiness. You have a kid, you have to change him. He cries, makes noise, it disturbs you. You can't go out with your friends. You can't do what you want. You can't be yourself. You have to develop the child. You can't develop yourself. They have all these different reasons. But let's just talk about what it is in a Jew, and that's what the Rebbe is talking about here. In a Jew, it is a feeling of pure egotism. No one will tell me what to do. No one will tell me what to do. And especially not God. Any mention, anything godly, anything this, it just drives them crazy. That's why you see with a Jew, if you say, you talk about religion, talk about God, to a Jew, he's a total atheist. He'll argue with you, and you talk to a non-Jew about God, about it, he says, I don't believe it. What do you want? It doesn't touch the essence of his being. If you say something, bad about the Detroit Tigers, his basketball team in Israel, it's the same thing. You say something, bad about his soccer team, he'll go ballistic and he'll go crazy. That really means something to him, right? But about a Jew, if you say something about Judaism, he gets excited, right? I'm not Jewish, right? It's something that really touches him. If you would say to a person, take a Jew, are you from Argentina? Not Argentina. I wasn't born in Argentina. I'm not an Argentinian. Yes, you are. You're Argentinian. Okay, say what you want. You're nuts. Right? Say, are you a Jew? I'm not a Jew. I wasn't born in a Jewish land. My parents weren't Jewish. They weren't religious. I'm not. They weren't religious. They weren't Jewish. Listen, just leave me alone. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But I don't understand. You weren't born in Argentina, so you weren't an Argentinian, right? And you weren't brought up in any sort of environment of Judaism. So, why is it so important to you that I say that you're a Jew? It's like saying you're Argentinian.
Why are you so sensitive?
Why are you so sensitive to it? But you see that it touches a Jew somewhere deep. And we can see also, like we talked about the last time, there's Jews, like in Russia, they discover they're Jews. They never knew that they were Jews. They discovered they're Jews, and all of a sudden it just changes their life totally. Right? It just changes little by little. It just changes their life totally. Okay. There we go. Yeah. No, we're on this page here. So says the Rebbe, good. Well, how do we fight against this Amalek? Says the Rebbe says, first of all, that you know that you're a Jew, that's wonderful. That's called Chokhmah. Chokhmah is this power, which is the point, awareness, I am Jewish. Now you have to develop this point so that it enters into your consciousness. What do I do with this, that I'm a Jew? A person can say that I'm a Jew, therefore, what do you do? I'm a Jew. They have in America, they had the joke about, the gastronomic Jew. I'm a Jew, therefore I eat bagels. Therefore I eat corned beef. Therefore I eat kosher style. Some people say that, what are the other types of Jews? There's a Jew that he's just a Yom Kippur Jew, and there were a couple of others also. It was funny, yeah. Passover. How do you do it so that you feel Jewish all the time? What is the thing about being a Jew? Essentially, being a Jew means that you have a love of God. You have a love of God. You have a love and an awe of God. You're willing to do for God what you're willing to do for money. B'chol meodecha, it says, b'chol mamonecha. You're willing to do for God what you're willing to do for money. At least. People love money. They look at their bank account, they see there's one more zero, they go crazy. Right? Wow, I thought I had $10,000 in the bank. I have $100,000. This makes me happy. Or oppositely, I thought I had $100,000. I have only $10,000. What's going on? So very happy about the zeros. Okay. The same thing should be that a Jew is excited about Hashem. The closer that he is to Hashem, the more happy he should be, and the more he wants to come even closer. Like a person that has 1 million, so he wants another 1 million. A person that has 10 million wants another 10 million. The more godliness he feels, he wants more godliness. That's really the Jewish feeling. That opens up the feeling of Judaism. God becomes important. He becomes real. He becomes like your best friend. God is your father. He's your wife, your king, your creator. King Solomon in the book Shir Hashirim, he uses all these terms. Achoti, Kala, my sister, my bride, a love song. All right, let's continue with the Rebbe. Now the Rebbe says, therefore we must bring this feeling of Judaism, this what's called Chachma, this point that I feel I'm a Jew. This awareness, this faith in God. He has a basic faith, but he has to bring it more and more into day-to-day life, into his emotions. How do you do that? By using understanding. V'hasaga hi havana ta'inyan. First word in line is ha'inyan. It is 8 lines down. 8 lines down from the top of the page. Ha'inyan. See? You have it, Zechariah? Ha'inyan.
There's 2 of them. First one and second one.
8 lines down. Here, this one. First one. Ha'inyan. Havana ha'inyan. Again, the first one. See? Here. In there. 8 lines down. Ha'inyan. To understand something. A person has the power of understanding. This power of understanding makes things more personal to a person. That when you understand something, then your original idea or your original feeling or your original faith it comes into details. Ubaribo hisberim, and in many explanations. Right? Just take an example. You have a car. You take lessons how to drive a car. Right? You put the thing, you drive it, you turn. You have absolutely no idea how a car works. Right? As far as you're concerned, it could be that the steering wheel, it signals there's these two rabbits inside, and they're on wheels, and when you turn it to the right, it gives this one a carrot, and he runs to it, and you turn this one to the left, and this one a carrot. You don't know what's going on. You put the key into the thing, and it's a little feather that it tickles these two rabbits, right, and they start to run, and they start to go. Yeah, right?
Just had two ropes on the wheels, then you would understand.
Yeah, you don't understand what's going on. You don't look inside. You want to understand what's going on in a car? I pretty much understand it, I think. I mean, there's these two rabbits that are really strong, and for some, they eat this fluid that you put into the back thing. They don't eat, I guess, liquid carrots or something. And you put it in, they say, no, listen, it's very, very complicated. Let me open this thing up. How did the rabbits, how do they live in there? Says, no, this is a motor, and there's pistons, there's combustion, and there's what is it called, ignition. And how this whole thing works, and then they work on gasoline. There's a whole tremendous, I never thought of this is so complicated. I'm sorry I ever got into it, right? Same thing, how does God work? A person believes in God. Now, what God says, put on tefillin. Okay, God puts on tefillin. Somebody else comes and says, you're Jewish? Yeah, God says, bow down to the statue. That's what Jews do now. Okay, I'll do it. You do everything. They don't know what to do, right? And so in America, all these missionaries, a lot of them, that's how they get Jews. The Jews have no idea. They believe in God, but they have no idea what it means. They don't understand anything. So you really want to believe in God? Come to the church. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's this. Look at.
Go off the dark.
Go off. They don't even know that there's a derech. It's just they believe in God, and somebody says this is the way. When a person starts to understand, suddenly his point comes into details. V'imios, and even though the bezed davka naaseh ha'inyan musag, even though that only by thinking deeply does this topic become understood, the benekudat haskala, that this point, this idea that you had, I'm a Jew, hagam sheyodea, even though that he knows the topic, he knows he's a Jew, right? Tell him to put on tefillin, he'll put on tefillin. Tell him not to turn on lights on Shabbos, he won't do it. But he doesn't understand anything about it. He doesn't understand anything about Judaism. Whatever they tell me to do, I'll do. No, it's very nice. But the problem is there's no emotions involved. You're never going to come to love God if you don't understand anything. Why should I understand God? All this God is, he just tells me to not turn on lights and to put on these boxes.
What about that guy you were telling us about yesterday? The guy who comes into the guy's house, and he's a very simple man, and he's kissing.
Right.
He's feeling something.
I'll tell you 1 second. Pasagasa inyan musag, it's understood. Listen, he's expressing his basic faith. That person, he kisses all the books and everything like that. He knows there's something higher than him. Right? The king comes, everybody bows down to the king. Everybody bows down to the king. Somebody asks, why do we bow down to the king? Right? Then they'll give you all sorts of explanations why to bow down to the king, right? All of a sudden comes along, who knows, Oliver Cromwell or someone, and he says, we have to rebel against the king. Right? The king is not good. Why? All of a sudden he gives reasons, everybody says, okay. Right? We'll rebel against the king. Before I was bowing down to the king, I was willing to give my life for the king. The king comes along, you go crazy. But if somebody comes along and explains a better reason why, right? A better reason why, so I'll go along with him. Someone comes on the other side and says, no, listen, this Cromwell guy, you don't understand what he wants. Right? He wants, whatever it is, to go back to the Pope, whatever the thing was. Right? You can't go according to him. You have to go with all of a sudden explanations. Now when you have explanations, you're a little bit sort of firm. You understand why I believe in the king, why the king is good, why.
You also have confusion.
If that's right, you have confusion also. You have to clarify things. But now you have to make decisions. The confusion demands from you that you clarify things and make decisions. Before you didn't have to clarify anything. Right? Whatever my mother tells me to do, I'll do. Bow down to the king, I bow down to the king. My next door neighbor tells me, don't bow down to that king, bow down to this king, bow down to... He wants to bow down, he doesn't know. doesn't know who to bow down to, right? He doesn't understand. So if there's only one thing, he bows down to that. Right? Understanding brings a person to confusion. It says, there's a pasuk that says, I'll have to get the sentence right. It says, Mosif das, Mosif machov. If you increase knowledge, you increase pain. It's a pasuk, I think, in Mishlei or in Koheles. If you add knowledge, you add pain. Why does it add pain? Because suddenly you start to understand what's going on, right? And you have to make decisions, and sometimes it becomes very, very difficult to make decisions, right? You know, it says that a doctor tells a person, listen, you have this growth, we're going to have to make an operation, and it'll be okay. He says, okay, that's all right. Now let's see, what is this growth? What type of growth? He looks in the encyclopedia. He says, whoa, this is really serious. This is worse than I thought. How many of these operations succeed? What is an operation exactly? He says, wow, this guy's going to cut into me, right? Before, the doctor said, don't worry, you come in the room, we put this thing on you, you go to sleep, and you wake up, right? Forget about what we do. As soon as you start to understand, then the understanding brings a little bit of difficulties. People, if they have children, you have children, it's wonderful. What children are wonderful. Somebody comes along and says, you know what children means? You have children. You're going to have to change them. They're going to make noise for you. You're going to have a big burden, financial burden. He starts to understand things. He says, well, maybe I shouldn't have children. I mean, not such a good thing. Then on the other hand, you start to, but you know what life is? You have any idea what life is? How valuable, precious life is? Just look at it. Think about it. Think about it. Yeah. Now I have to weigh it out. Should I have children or should I not have children? Well, I don't know. Right? He has to make a decision. Before, he didn't have to make any decision. Right? He just says, I'll have children. I have 10 children, 20 children. Now he starts to be, that's why in America and Israel for sure, right? The parents, people would come from the old country, or they would come from Iran or from Iraq or whatever. They would come, they would have 10, 15 children, and they would earn the counterpart today of $200 a week. And they would have 10, 15 children. They would get along. Now people earn, $1,000 a week, and 2 children is too much. 2 children and a dog, that's the ultimate. Maybe another dog.
Rabbi?
Yes, sir.
I heard that there was one guy. He was a Chassid. I'm not going to say what school. He came over to Israel from the 5 towns, Long Island. He found his wife, and his Rebbe said, don't have too many children with your wife. You're only going to have 4 children. But, however, the 4 beautiful children he had drove him crazy. But although they're good kids, they grew up well. He had so much of a burden. He said, when they all grew up, he said, when he was an old man, he said, I am never having children again. I'll just visit my grandchildren.
Something's basically wrong with that story, but we'll talk about it. Let's go. Mikol Makom. Not just one thing. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the story, but it's a story.
Yeah, that's the story.
You bring us in on it. That's what
whoever told you that story, you have to try to avoid that person.
Okay.
Try to avoid him in the future.
Every woman says that after she gives birth. I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, all right, good.
Bring us in on it.
Mikol Makom. Nevertheless, Hare Hasaga Hi Hispashtos Lavad. Nevertheless, understanding something is not the essence of the thing at all. You can understand the essence of Judaism, you can understand, but all this understanding is not the thing itself. As a person can understand why everything about Judaism, there are people that did that. They understood Kabbalah, they understood Chassidut, they understand Chassidut, they understand Judaism, and they didn't do any of the commandments. Right? It didn't have any connection to them whatsoever. Lochin, therefore, Hine Ha'or, the light, Ha'inekudas HaSkala, the original idea, this original idea, I am a Jew. I am willing to give my life for God. This Meir has to shine, Dakos Inyan, the true, refine the true topic. Shezeu Etzem Or Shel Skala. This is the essence of the light of the idea. So when you understand Judaism, it is essential that you do not forget the essence, enthusiasm of the idea, the essential above understanding of the idea. Or in simple language, a person that understands anything, he cannot forget his faith. You can't let your understanding override your faith in God. You have to serve God like a little child. At the same time, you have to be a tremendously understanding and complicated, and you have to learn all the aspects of Torah, understand Kabbalah, understand the Mishnah, understand the Gemara. You have to be a very simple person. If a person is like that, then one thing that happens is he's never feels that he's better than anybody else. And other thing that happens is he's always happy to be alive. And he's even happier to know that he can actually serve the Creator, because he always has the Creator in mind. He always feels, thankful that he's existing. There's a lot of stories about, a lot of Jews about like this, but there are a lot of very inspiring stories about Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was a very big Talmid Chacham, a very intellectual, super intellectual person. And he was a leader and everything, but he was a very, very simple person. And he got along with little children, and he would talk to them. And he talked. There was a story about an old lady that used to come to his office, and he would translate a letter for her in Russian, every week or something like that. Right? On one hand, the person has to be very complicated, uses understanding as much as possible. But on the other hand, the person has to have this basic faith in God, just like a little child. Both of them have to be, and that enlivens. That basic faith is called the point inside of the palace. It's called the little point of light that keeps it alive. A person can understand everything. There were stories in the Talmud, shocking stories about people that were geniuses. You don't find any geniuses like that today. And they went against King David. Some of them changed the religion. Some of them left Judaism. Some of them denied God. Yerovam ben Nevat and Elisha ben Avua and Achitophel and Doag, Shimi ben Gera. These people were giants in Torah. Not even giants isn't the word. Total geniuses. They knew everything that was in the Torah, and they went against God, or they rebelled against King David.
Did God punish them?
That's another thing, but the point of the matter is that why did they do it? Why did they do it? They did it because they had the understanding, but they didn't have this little point of self-negation. That's Korach. Korach went against Moshe, and he convinced all the Jewish people to go against Moshe. Shekeshasaga, that's the idea of understanding. Understanding is wonderful. You must bring your faith into understanding, into all the details, but don't forget the faith. When a person understands things, his original enthusiasm about God can go away. When a person starts to understand things, v'gam or hamurgash, and also the light that he feels in his understanding, huraki spashtus or. This is only the spreading out of the light. In other words, he gets excited about his understanding. A person can get excited about himself. I understand better than everybody else. I understand God better than I can answer any question you ask me in Kabbalah and Gemara. I can answer any question. I. It's that type of person. If everybody doesn't stand up for him when he comes in, he feels angry. Who are you not to stand up? Right? He feels too. Because suddenly he feels that God is very great, but who understands God like me? Very, 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 very tough. They say that the Baal Shem Tov, the last thing that he said was, Al tavi'eni l'regel gaiva. Etrog, he said, Al tavi'eni regel gaiva. Do not bring me to egotism. His last moment in life, he was worried that he would say, I serve God all the time. I'm so wonderful. Right? I've done such a great job. He was afraid. Key, because. Okay, be with me. The first word on the line is ubehasaga. Yes.
Hey, don't worry, I got the key. I'm
Key.
with you.
Ha'or seichel hamusag, because the light of understanding, gama or hanirgash. Behasaga, the light that he feels, the how do you say, the life that he feels in his understanding, harizeraki spashtusor. This is only the outside of this light of God. Velo etzama or, not the essence of the light of God that he felt when he had faith. Do you understand what I'm saying, Zachariah?
Well,
Huh?
yes.
V'chol zehu b'koach hachachma. This is in the power of chachma regarding the koach of bina. Chachma is like faith. Chachma is the idea. I am a Jew.
Isn't
This
chachma
feeling.
just knowing?
And bina is understanding.
But chachma is technically knowing.
What does that mean, knowing?
Like, you know what complete chachma is? Like, I'm doing this. I know I'm doing this. I'm
Chachma, if you want to say yes, chachma is awareness.
like, I'm aware. I know.
Very good.
I'm
Very
doing
good.
it right.
And
That's
bina is
chachma.
understanding. Bina is understanding.
Das is sticking too.
Okay, something like that. You're right. The kololos koach hachachma, the whole general power of chachma, which we called faith, or we called idea. Hu atzmi, it is essential. Chachma is aware of something that exists. Lagabi koach habina. Bina is only understanding this awareness. The awareness that something exists, that's chachma. Bina is trying to understand this thing that I'm aware of. Therefore, chachma is an essence. You're aware of a thing that is there. And bina is trying to understand this thing. It's removed from the actual thing itself. The chalalos koach chachma, the general power of a chachma, hu atzmi. I'm sorry, we did that. Ubaprat and pratim in details. Hari abakoach chachma negufa yesh beis madregos. If we look closely at what is this power of chachma, we'll find there's two levels. One is haseichel, the koach chachma, and the second is haria, the koach chachma. First of all, there's the intellectual awareness of a thing, and secondly, there is what we call seeing the thing. The yodea the ikar chachma hu haria is the seeing. Okay, it says, for instance, at Mount Sinai, that all the Jews, it says they saw God. Panim lapanim. They all saw godliness. They saw godliness. And nevertheless, 40 days later, they all worshiped the golden calf. Right? Why did they worship the golden calf? They saw God, but they didn't bring it into their personality. They saw what God was. Before Moshe could come down and explain what it was that they saw, as they worshiped the golden calf. Because the seeing that they had was very essential. They were sure that God exists. There was no doubt about it. They saw it. But they didn't translate it into any normal day-to-day terms. When God was appearing to them, God was appearing. They were knocked out. But when God was not appearing to them, they couldn't fathom that this revelation that they had of reality was relevant to them now when there is no revelation. And they worshiped the golden calf. In other words, because they didn't bring this revelation of seeing God into understanding, so therefore as soon as there was any sort of difficulty, as soon as there was pressure, as soon as they were afraid, as soon as they became confused, they didn't know what to do, and they worshiped the God. Some of them, it even said that they worshiped the God. What are the first two commandments of the Torah? I am the God that took you out of Egypt, and don't worship any other gods. Right? What did they say when they made the golden calf? They said, this is the God that took us out of Egypt. This is the God that took you out of Egypt. And there's explanations according to Kabbalah why an ox and the face of the ox on the chariot, why it was a calf that they saw when the sea split. Nevertheless, they worship this thinking that this is the God that took them out of Egypt. It's an example, it's a revelation, it's a branch of the God that took them out of Egypt. It says, Ria, seeing of Chachma, makes them sure, without a doubt, that God exists. Ria, Yediya, seeing is knowing. That's like what you said before, Zachariah. Chachma is knowing. You know something for sure. You saw God. They saw God at Mount Sinai. Adarab, exactly the opposite. This is the main Yediya. This is the main knowledge of God, is actually seeing God. What does it mean that you see God? God is not a thing. What did they see? Well, at Mount Sinai, they realized that everything else in the world is really not a thing. They realize that everything in the world is just a creation, and its reality comes from the Creator. They saw the Creator. They saw the Creator. Explains in Chassidus it was much deeper than that, but let's say it very simply. The world simply wasn't there. That's why their souls jumped out of their bodies. Nothing in the creation could hold this awareness that we're just creations. We're just being created. Right? We're really nothing. And miraculously, God is creating us every single instant. Right? We're miracles. This feeling, this seeing God, this is true knowledge. Sheroa mahut ve'etzem adamar, that he sees the very essence of a thing. Right? In court cases, in Judaism, if you see something, if there's two witnesses that see something, then that's considered to be irrefutable evidence. Irrefutable evidence. Unless two other witnesses come along and they contradict, they say, no, we saw something else. Oh, then their seeing corresponds to this people's seeing, right? Then it's two against. If they say, we saw you were with us in a different place, you didn't see, then that's even worse. Then they could be the first two guys will get the punishment that they wanted to put on the. Okay, that's very complicated, those laws. The hazama, that's very complicated. But nevertheless, seeing is revealing. Seeing is truth.
Seeing is believing.
Right? Right? This is even more than believing. So for instance, if two people see something happen, right? Me and you, we see Joe borrow money from Sam. We saw it. We go to court. And two other witnesses come and say, yeah, but you told us that you're going to lie today. You told us. Doesn't make any difference. If I said that I saw something, then these people hearing doesn't contradict it.
Big difference between seeing
and hearing, right.
Hearing could be a lie. Seeing can't be
That's
a
right,
lie.
very good.
At Mount Torah, they talk about seeing the words of Hashem.
It says they saw what was spoken. They saw God's words, right? Ukamo bahakochos toriya, just like in the power of seeing and hearing. Te'im that if, te'im that if, hiot, that even though, the shneim that both of them, seeing and hearing, hein, they are kochot, they are powers of perception. Hamachabrim, that they join a person to what's outside of him. Mikol makom, hine ria hu sharoa etzem mahut. When you see something, you see the essential thing. The shemiya and hearing, hari eno yodea etzem mahut. He does not know the essential thing. Rak masha shomea, only that which he hears mizulat from other people. Mashmiyato, and let them know. Harihu mevin, he understands. Echu mahuto shaladavar, he understands what this thing is. Imken, if so, harizer rakit pashtut. This is just a, how do you say, an aspect, but tziur, and a picture, hamatziut, of the thing. Valo riat etzam mahut, and not seeing the essence of the thing itself. They say the example of the man that he's a zoologist, a professor in zoology, and he explains to the class what a lion is. When a lion gets angry, a lion. Now, he personally has never seen a lion before in his life. Right? He's seen pictures of lions. He's never been to Africa. For whatever reason it is, he never went to the zoo, and he didn't see a lion, but he is
a PhD in zoology.
a PhD. He knows lions, nothing like it. You can ask him any question. He knows all the types of lions, how many lions there are in each area of Africa, and everything. And one day, he goes to the zoo, and they show him, he's right next to the cage, and they see a lion comes jumping at him. He faints, passes out. This is a lion. Right? They never thought that anything was so scary. Seeing is different than understanding. Seeing is different than understanding. When a person sees something, it's reality. And you can say, okay, maybe it was inside of the lion, there was just a lion's costume. It wasn't really a lion, right? But it doesn't make any difference. Seeing this false lion is still different, is still more real than hearing about this false lion. Because seeing is always more immediate than hearing and understanding. Hearing and understanding about something is more removed. Lochi, and therefore, bishmiya, When a person hears something, tzarich lishmoa kol hapratmi, you have to hear all of the details. Va'az davka yodea, then he knows what the thing is. V'im lo yishma prati adaborim, if he doesn't know the details, einu maybe in a dabar, he doesn't understand it. Ki'im tzarich lishmoa kol prat, is there every detail, right? Child comes home, Daddy, yesterday there was a lion in the class, we saw a lion. The father says, a real lion in the class? Yeah, how did it look? He says, Daddy, a lion. Well, how did the thing look? How did it look? He says, well, it had 4 legs. Yeah, a lion has 4 legs. How big was it? Well, it was about, that was higher than my ankles. Oh, maybe it wasn't a lion. Well, yeah, it was, Daddy. It was really high. It was really scary. It was really scary. It looks like what came into the room was a cat. A cat came into the room. Right? That's when he explains the details, then he has to explain the detail. No, it was a lion, Daddy. What color was it? It was like gray, and there's no gray lions. Doesn't exist. There are in Africa. There are gray lions.
Back to the zoologist, seeing the lion, and seeing that was chachma.
That's chachma.
His understanding is being
right, exactly. Understanding, you have to hear all of the details. What the lion is, right? He saw a lion. What noise did it make? It went, arr, arr, like that. He says, I think it was a dog. No, Daddy, it was not a dog. It was a lion, right? Did it stand, right? Did it eat a bone? Ate a bone. All of a sudden you find the details and you realize that it wasn't a lion and it wasn't a cat and it wasn't even a dog. It was the teacher dressed up as a dog, right? And you realize that that was a trick. And now everyone stands. When you explain all the details of a thing, then you can understand what the thing is. And what's the riyah? But seeing. When you see something, you understand immediately what it is. Because he sees the essence of the thing. Everything is grasped in one point. So it is also the power of Chachma. The main knowledge of Chachma is bechinas riyah. Shall riyah. There's something missing. There's a printing error here. Riyah, I don't understand. Okay. Hine gam hasichlim, the chachma, also the seichel part of chachma. His pashtus is his pashtus. Okay, what did we say before? We said that in chachma itself there are 2 aspects. There's the seeing, and then there's the understanding part of chachma. Before it comes into understanding, bina. Seeing means he sees godliness, he could pass out. Right? He sees the lion, he could pass out. Right? The understanding part means he looks into it. One second, let me explain. Let me understand what this thing is over here. Right? Take the example of the father comes in the class and says, Daddy, there's a big lion in the class. The child says, the father comes over and he comes and he looks at it and he says, whoa, it really looks like a lion. But he looks a little closer. He says, no, it's not a lion. It's a stuffed lion. The teacher must have made it, and it moves. He put a little motor inside of it, so it moves. He looked into it. It's a little bit sort of a deeper type of seeing. It's not a first impression seeing. The first impression seeing, it's a lion. Oh, right? The Jews were at Mount Sinai. Oh, they saw God. Then they thought into it a little bit. Let's see what it says. Hine gama sichli the chachma. Also, this second part of chachma, not the seeing part of chachma, but the lower part of chachma, the part of chachma which is spreading out, like it says in the book and part of the Zohar, which is called the Idra Zutra. Hai chachmata itpashta ishpashetet va'afik minei asichlim, the chachma. This chachma spreads out and comes out from it. Sorry, I skipped the line here. And comes out from it bina. The essence of chachma is seeing. The lower part of chachma, that's connected to what's below it, which is bina. It makes it, how do you say, Available. This is Chachma that's available to being understood. The seeing of Chachma you can't understand. It's too much. A person sees God, he sees something, you can't understand it. You see something, right? It's too essential to understand. It has to be somehow or other a little bit, articulated a little bit watered down so that it can come and be approachable by understanding. Hari, ta'asichli, the Chachma, shemizeh hu hasaga de bina, that the lower part of Chachma, which brings to the understanding of bina, hari zeh bechinet hispashtut, this is what we call already spreading out of Chachma. So a person sees God. He has this feeling, oi, I'm a Jew. I realize I'm a Jew, right? And now what are you supposed to do with this now? Whew, what an experience I had. I never had anything like that. I was crying. It was just something amazing, right? Now what is it? I'm really hungry. Let's eat a cheeseburger. Let's go to this. It doesn't mean anything to him, right? Somebody says to him, 1 second, the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, they also saw God. And they went and they worshipped idols. Let's try to understand, what did you see there? When you had this feeling of godliness, you felt you're a Jew. What does it mean? I don't know. Think about it a little tiny bit. Remember that feeling that you had. The feeling, well, I guess maybe it's not just a feeling. I just sort of felt, I'm responsible to the Creator. I'm created. He's creating me, and I feel a responsibility. Oh, that's a little hook that we can put understanding on. What type of responsibility? In other words, God creates you. That's, it says that Abraham, he came to do all the commandments before the Torah was given. In other words, he was sure that their God existed, but also he felt a certain responsibility from the seeing of God. And from that he came, why am I responsible? What should I do with my eyes? What should I do with my heart? What should I do with my feeling of love? What should I do with my feeling of hate? What should I do with these things in order to serve God? He came to this, to all the commandments. This is the lower part of Chachma. The Yadu, and it's known, the Gama Sichli the Chachma, that this lower part of Chachma, Hine Ya'ikar hu Hanacha Sichlis, the main part of it, even the lower part of Chachma, the main thing is what we call a Hanacha Sichli, the up leg. Namely, in English it's called an axiom, axiomatic thing, right? The definition, if you want to call it. What is a square? What is a perfect square? A square is a figure, a geometric figure that has only 4 sides, and each side has an equal length. That's a square. That's the definition of a square. Maybe not. Maybe a square has 3 sides. So that's not called a square. No, I have a 3-sided square. But that's not a square anymore. The axiom is, right? That's the way things work. What do you want? That's what it is. That's what it is. A person sees God. He sees a fact. Right? It's a fact. He sees a fact. There is a creator. He sees this fact. He realizes, wow, I'm just being created. It's a fact. Right? And that he sees this, what does it mean? Nothing. He just realizes that there's something bigger than what he thought. Life is more amazing. What does it mean? It doesn't mean nothing. I had this experience. He goes to the bar. He says, listen, guys, you'll never believe this experience I had. Right? A car almost ran over me, and all of a sudden I had this experience that there was God. Right? Go tell the priest. Go to this. Write a book about it. Well, you had an astral projection. Right? Your life went out. There's other people that had that. We have books in mythology. Right? You saw God. Had a feeling. Okay, but then that's the first feeling. Then he has a little bit of a lower feeling. What's a little bit of a lower feeling? I saw God and I feel this means something. Oh, it means something. That's already the explanation. But this explanation is also axiomatic. In other words, there is God and God means something. This is an axiom, right? It's also part of Chachma, and it's, even though it's a lower part of Chachma, but it's also what we call a Hanacha Sichlis. It's a thing that you have to be taken for granted. This is a fact. Their up leg, that's what's called the up leg, the basis. Ubina hu hasichli. And bina is what we make of this axiom, how to apply it. Imkein bina, which is hasaga, understanding, is hispashtus blavad. It's just a spreading out. It's just what we call, let's say a good word in English for it. It's just an outcome, a result, an implication. An implication from this fact that God exists. Right? God exists. So what? I don't know. Think of it a little bit deeply. What God exists, and that means something that God exists. So what? Well, let me try to understand this. So now it starts to understand. God wants this, this means this. All these implications that come. But a person can get so involved in the implications, he can forget about the essence. Right? Forget about the implication. If I'm a communist, right? What are the implications of communism? He learns all the that's a good idea. Okay, now, I am a Stoic. What's the implications of Stoicism? Okay, now I am let's imagine I am a Scotsman. What are the implications of being a Scotsman? So you can understand all these implications has nothing to do with the point anymore, right? The implications of being a Jew and the implications of being this religion. That's just understanding. A person can give a lecture in any subject he wants, but he's not enthusiastic about anything except himself. And that's the whole point of Amalek. Amalek is myself. I'm the main thing. So it could be that a person can have understanding, but the understanding is, you take the life out of it. Because a person is excited about what? Himself. That's what makes him say. That's the Amalek part. What's the antidote to that? The antidote is being excited about God, but also understanding. Bringing God into understanding.
It's nice as well for people like us, but there are people, brilliant people that we've talked about, and they never get this first step.
Right.
How do those people?
Well,
I said to Rebbe was going to maybe talk to them.
Listen.
Right now he's talking to the choir, the believers.
And that's what it says that the Mashiach, the Rambam says. Maimonides, it's a law. It's not a Kabbalistic idea. Yeah. The Rambam says Mashiach will come and convince, he says they'll force all the Jews to return to Torah and mitzvahs. How is he going to do this? Something like what Mordechai did in the miracle of Purim. What did Mordechai do? All the Jews had just eaten in the meal of Achashverosh. Jews know how to have a good time. I mean, there's once in a while there's a schlepper, a Jew, but generally speaking, not. Generally speaking, Jews are lively people. They like to have a good time, right?
They love Shabbat dinner.
They love whatever. That's a religious Jew. Not religious Jew. They love good music. They love this. They love to have a good time. They're involved in the world. They know how to have pleasure. They know how to have a good pleasure. Jews are alive. All these Jews in the time of Haman, they ate at the meal of Achashverosh. They enjoyed it. They were enjoying, it says, Nehaneh, Misurat. Oh, they got pleasure from the meal of Achashverosh. These were living people. They knew what to look forward to tomorrow. All of a sudden comes Mordechai and says, do not deny that you're a Jew. They'll kill you. If you deny being a Jew, you'll be saved. If you just say, I'm not Jewish, you won't get killed. The decree is to kill all the Jews. Say you're not Jewish and you'll live. Don't say you're not Jewish. There was not one Jew for one whole year that denied his Judaism. Why? Because it's a fact. That's the fact of Chachma. It's the fact. Suddenly this fact, deep inside of every Jew, it's there. It's not a religious experience. It's not something that's outside of you, that's only reserved for spiritual people. Or people that all of a sudden the car falls on top of them and it just happens to be that a little space was reserved for them or something, right? That they lived. And every single Jew, like the language of the Alter Rebbe, no Jew wants to go against God and no Jew is able to go against God. No Jew. But what happens? Either they don't know they're Jews or what's called the Ruach Shtus, the feeling of insanity. So in other words, it's there inside of every Jew. But it has to be brought out. And it has to be brought out in a human, meaningful way. That a person can bring this chachma, this experience, into bina, into understanding. So that he can understand to do the right thing. But once a person feels it, just like a normal person that he understands that murder is not a good thing, he doesn't want to murder anybody. He won't murder people. Right? Why? You don't have any free will. See, you don't have any free will. You're not going to murder someone. Huh? That was one of the things Nietzsche and the there was the followers. There was, what's his name, Wagner. He wrote a whole little book, Richard Wagner, fantastic, genius composer. And he said that the Jews, he wrote a whole book about how bad the Jews are. He said the Jews are always copiers. The Jews are limited by their essential nature. The Jews can never be truly original in music. They can never be original here. Can never be original in music and anything. Right? Everything the Jews do is already always limited. Not so the Germans. We are totally unlimited. Right? We have no conscience. We can override our conscience. That's what Superman meant. A Superman meant that he's over everything, named over your conscience. Nothing will force me to do what I don't want to do. Nothing will force me to not do what I do want to do.
So it wasn't really talking about Jews being copied. He's really talking about conscience.
Right. Jews are limited. And they limited the whole world. Hitler, he wrote, before he died, he wrote his last will and testament. He said, I hope now I'm going to die. I think the thing is true. That I hope that the future generations will carry out my battle, which is the battle of the German people against the Jews. He says the Jews have crippled the world in two ways. They crippled the body with their circumcision, and they crippled the soul with their Bible. Their conscience. Your conscience bothers you. Where'd you get this? Conscience bothers you. So here we have the Jewish people, and they wanted to be part of Achashverosh's guys. All of a sudden comes Mordechai and says, Mordechai, listen, you people, you're Jews, and your job in the world is to fight Amalek. That's your job. The job is to fight this indifference, to fight this unlimited egotism, to fight against death. That's your job.
Could it be said that they wanted to assimilate?
I don't know if the Jews wanted to assimilate. I don't know if it's that way. In the time of Hanukkah, they wanted to assimilate. Yeah. Hanukkah was much more spiritual. Here, the Jews, they wanted to it says that the meal of Achashverosh, that they all ate kosher food.
Yeah, I read that also.
Right? They did not want to leave Judaism. And as far as I understand, he didn't want them to leave Judaism. It says that there's different things. As they said, that Haman made a decree against Or of Simcha v'Sasan v'Yakar, against learning Torah, against the Jewish holidays, against bris milah, circumcision, and against putting on tefillin. That says those four things he made a decree against. But except for that, you could be a Jew. You could be you'd have your holidays, but like regular. I have to look more into that, but that's what it says. But nevertheless, the essence wasn't. Hanukkah was more spiritual. In Hanukkah, they really wanted the Jews to leave God. And Purim, they just wanted to kill the Jews. That's why in one way Purim is a happier holiday than Hanukkah is.
I've noticed in studying Purim this year that we talk about how knowledge is pain. There are so many conflicting views of everything that happened. It's
where in Purim?
In Purim, there's so many. Look, it just the questions keep on coming and coming. I mean, I thought I knew something. I know nothing.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
And then my own personal remedy for this is to then go back and just read the Megillah.
Yeah, sure. You have to go to the sources.
Yeah.
You have to go back to the sources. People make all sorts of things up. You have to go back to the sources of Judaism.
I'm reading from good books. I'm not reading, from...
That was a very major accomplishment, if you want to call it, accomplishment of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that everything he said, he brought a proof from the Torah. At least one proof. A proof, uncontested proof from the Torah. And if there were different opinions, he brought all the different opinions, he brought everything that there was. So that there was nothing that he said that was based on just, you have to do it because I say.
Well, the other problem I run into is that now I've started reading a lot of Midrash, and you got to remember that the Midrash is not always what you think it's saying. It could be really saying.
That's also true, yes.
Anyway.
Yes. But that's the reason why it says that's the name of this mimer. No, I'm sorry. Not this mimer. There's another. The previous mimer, I'm learning in another place. That's why it says that the Jews only actually received the Torah on Purim. it said, Kiblu et asher echilu la'asot. It's a pasuk that the Jews actually accepted what they began at Mount Sinai. Because at Mount Sinai they accepted the Torah, but they didn't really internalize it to the point they were willing to give their lives for the Torah until Purim. That's when they felt the Judaism, as we'll talk about more, God willing, next week. Tomorrow is a fast day. So you're going to come tomorrow? So we'll next week. As God willing. Happy Purim, everybody.
Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.
Good. Purim is the holiday when all soon it will be Purim, and there's and there's people soon it will be Purim, and there's people that they want to do us evil like they tried to do way back then, but we're God's sons. God is one. He will do to them what he did to Haman. Say, we've got the Rock of Ages. We've got the Rock of Ages. Oh, better not don't mess with the Jews, because the Rock of Ages, he will knock off your block for eternity. If you mess with the Jews, you're bound to lose. God will make another Jewish holiday from you. Whether we've got the Rock of Ages. We've got the Rock of Ages. Purim is the holiday when all the Jews... No, Purim is the holiday when all the Jews say, if you're happy, God will slay all of your enemies. No need to fear. Do not cry. God will change your troubles to a bundle of joy. We've got the Rock of Ages. This is the best verse. We've got the Rock of Ages. Listen. Anti-Semitism is another way of saying that you hate the creator of the universe. That's what our enemies said. Now they're dead. Let's go celebrate Purim instead. We've got the Rock of Ages. We've got the Rock of Ages. Happy Purim, everyone. Happy Purim. Right. Happy Purim.
These are the uncut garage tapes of Ohr Tmimim.